And I welcome everybody to El-beth-el TV Land. We are in service already on Shabbat. I welcome TV Land to the house of Yah. Bishop Ronald K. Hairston Jr., welcome to the house of Yah. We're here at 118 Chaney Avenue, Jacksonville, North Carolina, 28540. Time of the service here, we're on Shabbat 11:30. Then we got Yahuwah study instruction of Torah on Yom Ravi at 7. Then we got beginning Shabbat, which was yesterday, on Yom Shishi. Again, you're welcome to attend through via Facebook, or if you can make it here in Arlington County, come in and join us to worship Yahuwah. All right? The creed of El-beth-el is Ephesians 4:5. We believe in one Yah, one faith, one baptism. And Ephesians chapter 2, verse 20. Our foundation built upon the apostles and the prophet Yahushua Mashiach is chief cornerstone. That's what we deal with. That's what we stick with. If you got any questions, we go through the Torah. The Torah is going to tell us everything what Yah has done. All right, we're going to begin. Try to forget anything with the... Oh yeah, the number is 910. The call is 910-388-5295. And my phone number is 910-381-3056. And if you got any problems, you need to know again the times of the service, please call us. Or anything with the Torah, you got a question, please call me so we can go over the Dabarim, that you may get more understanding and knowledge of Him who saves us, Yahushua. Again, we're going to start with our Shabbat. Scripture is Shabbat. We talk about Shabbat so you may understand why we do keep Shabbat. Do anybody have any Shabbat day scriptures they want to share? You're welcome to stand up and give y'all the praise and share why we keep the Shabbat. People want to know. People think that Shabbat is just a law, we don't have to keep it. That's a lie. I don't know why everybody said that, because they changed it. When did they change it? They changed it around Constantine time. You know, the Nicaea, Council of Nicaea, that time frame when they start changing things around. You know, that is not right. Man cannot change anything. Only Yah can. We already know Yah doesn't change anything. His word don't go void. When Yahuwah bless something, He blesses. You cannot curse a blessing. So Yah blessed the Shabbat day, and He sanctified the Shabbat day. Sanctify me, set apart. Sanctify me, set apart. And then Shabbat is blessed. That'll be berakated, and it's going to be blessed forevermore. Right? All right, do we have anybody who want to share scriptures today? Well, let's stay in the New Testament a little bit. Let's go to Acts chapter 13. We're not going to be long on Shabbat. I'm going to let Brother Fabian go ahead and minister a little bit. I'm looking to hear part 2 on incubist and succubus. Mostly the spirit of incubus and what they're doing. I enjoyed yesterday's study, and it was really good. Talking about how Goliath, you know what I'm saying, had that spirit with a 6 finger, and he's talking about it's not common. You know, think about it. He had it, his sons had it. Think about it. That's generation to generation. And I was looking at that, brother, man, we was talking about that, man. His sons had 6 fingers, 6 toes, 6 fingers. Where they waving beans, man, it was different, man. All right. Acts chapter 13, verse 42. And when the Jews were gone out of the synagogue, the Gentiles besought these words might be preached to them the next Shabbat. Now, when the congregation was broken up, many of the Jews and the religious proselytes followed Paul and Barnabas, who speaking to them persuaded them to continue in the grace of Yah. And the next Shabbat day came almost the whole city together to hear the word of Yah. But when the Jews saw that the multitude, they were filled with envy and spake against the things which were spoken by Paul, contradicting and blaspheming. And then Paul and Barnabas waxed bold and said, it was necessary that the word of Yah should first have been spoken to you. But seeing you put it from you and judge yourself unworthy of everlasting life, lo, we turn to the Gentiles. Mark. I like that where it says the Shabbat day. Those Gentiles heard Paul standing out there. They could not go into the temples because they was unclean. Because they were Gentiles, but they were on the outside of the temple. Listen to Apostle Shuar speak. And then they said, and after they I guess they, Apostle Shuar, I guess when he's speaking, he must spoke for a while. Think about it. You just sit and wait for the man of y'all to come out there. You don't know how long he's speaking. He must be speaking. Remember, there ain't no time period. So he's probably, especially in the temple, so it's about half a day. At least 2 or 3 hours, at least 4 hours speaking. Think about it, just waiting. The Gentiles just waiting. Hearing what Apostle Shuar is speaking. Then when he comes out, say, hey, won't you speak to this next Shabbat day? So they waited 7 days to hear Apostle Shuar speak. They brought the whole city, almost the whole city, to come to hear him speak on Shabbat. It wasn't on no Sunday. It was on Shabbat. That's when the word was speaking. That's when they read the Torah. They speak on Shabbat day because they can speak the Mashiach through the Torah. That's what they use. They didn't have the New Testament like we got. Because it wasn't made yet. They had the Torah, which Apostle Shuar knew inside and out about the Mashiach. And that's what he spoke. Trying to convince the Yadins. You know what I'm saying? The Judah. Yisrael. That he is the Mashiach. But they got jealous. They got mad. So that's why I said we go to the Gentiles. They want to hear it. If you don't want to hear it, we go to the Gentiles. They're receiving Yahusha. And that's where he went. But I'm trying to tell you, this thing was preached on Shabbat. It wasn't preached on Sunday. On Shabbat day. That's where they kept the house of Yah. Sunday wasn't there yet. Sunday wasn't there yet. Let's go to, again, Acts chapter 17. Acts chapter 17, verse 1 to 4. Now they had passed through Amphipolis and Apollonia. They came to Thessalonica, where was a synagogue of the Jews. And Shuar, as his manner was, went unto them. And 3 Shabbat days reasoned with them out of the scriptures, opening and acknowledging that the Messiah must need have suffered and risen again from the dead, and that this Yahusha, whom I preach unto you, is the Messiah. All right. I like that. Verse 2. And Shuar as his manner was. What was his manner? Shuar was a Jew. That was his manner. He says unto them, in 3 Shabbat days, reason with them out of the scriptures, out of the Torah. 3 Shabbat days. So we know it's 3 Shabbat days. He was there for 3 weeks. He made sure, because that was his manner. He knew to be in the house of Yah. That's what he did. Just like I know to be in the house of Yah. And all you know to be in the house of Yah on a Shabbat day. If it was Sunday, that's all you knew. You was on there Sunday. If you going to worship Yah. That was the first commandment. Hear, O Yisrael. Yahuwah Elohim. Yahuwah is one. Is one. You're going to worship him. If you're not here, you worship some other God. If you're not in the house of Yah, point blank, that's speaking. If you're not in the house of Yah, you're worshiping some other God. When Yah gave you a breath of life, he gave you limbs, hands, he gave you a vehicle, he gave you ability, the knowledge and wisdom to get to the house. And if you don't want to be here, then you worship some other God. Point blank. We already know who you serve. But we serve Yah. Yah says, remember Shabbat day and keep it Kaddish. He says, remember it. How do we remember it? We come here and give him honor. We come here and give him reverence. We come to praise him. We come to lift him up. We come to sing songs about him. We ain't singing about ourselves. Move me out the way. But we come here to praise him. Come and lift up his name. For he is worthy. Why is worthy? He brought me out of the muck of mire. He brought me out of dirt. He brought me out of clay. He made me from clay. Gave me breath of life. Then, man, I conceived in sin because of Adam and Eve. My mother conceived me in sin. Then here comes Yahusha for the whole world. And all I got to do is just believe in him. Pay the price. And I cannot worship my Yah like that, Yahusha, something wrong. I choose to live in sin then. I choose to forget the blood of Yeshua and say he's on some unholy thing and mark him that. Spit in the face like Judah did. You know what I'm saying? And mark him if I cannot praise Yah. If I cannot praise Yah. Acts 18. Not going to be long. I'm trying to run through this real quick. But we are keeping the Shabbat day. And after these things, Apostle Shual departed from Athens and came to Corinth. Oh, talking about the Corinth church. And found a certain Jew named Aquila, born in Pontus, lately come from Italy with his wife Priscilla, because that Claudius, that's Emperor Claudius, had commanded all Jews to depart from Rome, and came unto them. And because he was of the same craft, he abode with them, and wrought, for by their occupation they were tent makers. And he reasoned in the synagogue every Shabbat day, and persuaded the Jews and the Greeks. Persuaded every Shabbat day. So we already know Apostle Shual was in there for a year and a half. If you do your studying about Apostle Shual in the Greek church, when he sat there and ministered to them in Corinth, he stayed there about a year and a half. So every Shabbat, it was like, what's it? So you said what it was about 75 times, 80 times, 78 times. Think about it. 78 times. Apostle Shual was keeping the Shabbat. Every Shabbat, as his manner was, with the Jews and the Greeks. Got to be Greek Jews. You know.
Hellenists.
Yeah, Hellenists. There you go. But he was there. Reason with them. What was he talking about reason? He was speaking about the Messiah. He was speaking about Musa, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph. You know what I'm saying? He's speaking about King David, King Solomon, Samuel, Elijah, all the minor prophet, Daniel, with Yahusha. Elijah aligning with them to Yahusha, converting with them, conversating with them about Yahusha. Apostle Shual was on the Shabbat day. Because Shabbat was right. If it wasn't so right, he wouldn't been there every Shabbat day. He knew to be there on Shabbat day. He knew. Acts 8. Come on. I'm speaking New Testament. This is New Testament. It ain't Old Testament. New Testament. Excuse me. That is 16. I'm trying to get it right.
16.
Chapter 16, sir. Let me get there. All right. Verse 13. And on the Sabbath day we went out of the city by the riverside where prayers were wont to be made. And we sat down and spake unto the women which resorted there. I like that. These women, they were keeping Shabbat day. That's where they went to pray at, by the river. And a certain woman named Lydia, a seller of purple, of the city of Thyatira, which worshiped Yah, heard us, whose heart Elohim opened, that she attended unto the things which were spoken of Paul, Shual. And when she was baptized in her household, she besought us, saying, if you have judged me to be faithful to Elohim, come into my house and abide there. And she constrained us. All right. Verse 10. Excuse me, verse 13. And on the Shabbat, we went out of the city by the riverside where prayers were wont to be made. And we sat down and spake unto the women which resorted there. Women, that was their custom. They was on Shabbat day making prayers to Yah. They kept Shabbat by the riverside. Then Apostle Shual came and started talking to them about the Mashiach. Their hearts were open. And he baptized them for the remission of sins on Shabbat day. This reason why I speak Shabbat. Shabbat is Kaddish. Shabbat is blessed. Unless it commanded us to keep Shabbat. Commanded us. Alright. And 2 more scriptures. Now move out your way. We got Brother Fabian. Looking forward to him, to hear what he has to say. Marcus chapter 2, one of my favorite scriptures, which I know Yah is one, and Yahusha is Yah. People don't believe that. How can he be Yah if he's in the flesh and Yah's in the Shamarine? Easy. Yah could be in the flesh and under the ground at the same time. You want to try to put chains on Yah. Chapter 2, verse 23. And it came to pass that he went through the cornfields on the Shabbat day, and his disciples began, as they went, to pluck the ears of the corn. And the Pharisees said unto him, Behold, why do they on the Shabbat day that which is not lawful? And he said unto them, Have you never read what David did when he had need and was a hunger, he and they that were with him, how he went into the house of Yah in the days of Abiathar the high priest, and did eat the shewbread, which is not lawful to eat but for the priests, and gave also to them which were with him. And he said unto them, The Shabbat was made for man, and not man for the Shabbat. Therefore the Son of Man is Elohim also on Shabbat. The Son of Man, talking about Yahusha, is Elohim on Shabbat. Yahusha is Elohim of the Shabbat. Yahusha is, he is Lord. He is Elohim. He is Yah. Yah is on the Shabbat, but Yahusha said that on Shabbat day. What are we speaking about? They understand that King David was anointed by Samuel from Yah. He is anointed to eat the shewbread. Plus, he was Kodesh. You got to read about that, about King David. Who was it? The Levite, Abiathar, asked him, Have you been with woman? And he said, the man, he said, No, we haven't been with nobody for 3 days. They were cleansed. And the bread was old and he ate it. They were supposed to die, but it didn't. Because there was a need. Same thing with Yahusha. Yahusha said, I'm Elohim on Shabbat day. Same with King David. King David was anointed king by Samuel, anointed of Yah. That gave him authority right there to eat of the shewbread. Authority right there. Same thing with Yahusha. Same with his disciples, because Yahusha anointed his disciples to eat the shewbread. Alright. Last scripture. Deuteronomy chapter 5. Verse 12, 17. Keep the Shabbat day to sanctify it as Elohim your Yah has commanded you. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work. But the 7th day is of the Shabbat of Elohim your Yah, and it you shall not do any work. You nor your son, nor your daughter, nor your manservant, nor your maidservant, nor your ox, nor your mule, nor any of thy cattle, nor your stranger that is within your gates, that your manservant and your maidservant may rest as well as you. And remember that you was a servant in the land of Mizraim, and that Elohim your Yah brought thee out thence through a mighty hand, and by a stretched out arm. Therefore, Elohim your Yah commanded you to keep the Shabbat day. I like that. Verse 15. Therefore, Elohim your Yah commanded you to keep the Shabbat day. Elohim Yah commanded you to keep the Shabbat day. I did not command you to keep it. Musa did not command you to keep it. Yosef did not command you to keep it. Yahshua did not command you to keep it. Yah, Elohim, commanded you to keep it. Commandment, if you was in the military, it was an order. That order has not been changed. Only one can change a command is the one that gave the authority of that command. And Yahuwah and Yahusha commanded to keep the Shabbat day. They did not change that command yet. That's why Yahusha said, I'm Elohim of Shabbat. Alright? Alright. Again, it's good to be in the house of Yah. We're going to switch the order of the service. We got the man of Yah. Man of Yah, Brother Fabian Wilkes will be speaking in this lesson today. Alright. We'll wait on this time.
I'm going to use that later.
So. Go ahead.
I ain't looking at no mails. I'm going to use him.
Who's him? Ray teaching.
Oh yeah, Ray too. His perverted.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm ready to see Ray Charles, man.
That's Christopher Columbus.
You got Ray Charles, then you got James Brown. I'm ready to see what you got to say about this.
Alright. Trying to get that picture, but
Yahuwah is good. I know that's worthy to be praised, worthy to be praised. All praise to Yah, the Most High. This is a day that Yah has made. My brother and sister on my song today. This is the day that Yah has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. I will rejoice and be glad in this day, for Yah has made this day. We will bless his name at all time. And his praise will continue to be in our lips and our mouth, that we will praise him. That we love Yah. We love Yah. All right.
I'll be just a few seconds.
As we're waiting, I'm just going a couple of scriptures still. Let me know when you're ready. You can get this mic. Proverbs 19, 16. He that keepeth his commandments keepeth his own soul, but he that despises his ways shall die. If you keep God's commandments, you keep your soul. And that's what I plan on doing. I'm keeping his commandments, I can keep my soul. He that despises his ways shall die. You despise the ways of Yah, you're going to die. Point blank. That you don't take heed to wisdom. You don't take heed to knowledge. You know, like it said, I like how we talked about that in Proverbs 15:31. I love that verse again. The reproof. The ear that hears the reproof, the correction of life, abides among the wise. The correction, the reproof of life, the instruction of life abides among the wise. The ear that hears the correction of life abides among the wise. That's what we hear. So we abide among the wise. We hear the reproof of Yah and everything else that Yah has given us. And I'm thankful for that. Blessed be the rock of Yah. Luke chapter 4. Lucas chapter 4. I can speak Shabbat all day long. Verse 16. And it came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up. I'm talking about Yahusha. And as his custom was, he went into the synagogue on the Sabbath day and stood up for to read. As his custom. That's his custom. Yahusha was Jew. I mean, Yahushua was. He wasn't no Gentile.
All right.
He wasn't no Gentile. As his custom was, he went into the synagogue, and on the Shabbat day he stood up for to read. And there was delivered unto him the book of the prophet Yeshayahu. And when he had opened the book, he found the place where it was written, The rock of Elohim is upon me, because he hath anointed me to preach the resurrection to the poor. He has set me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives, and recovering of sight to the blind, to set at liberty them that are bruised, to preach the acceptable year of Elohim. Are you ready for me, sir? All right. Again, thank you for listening for the Shabbat day. I present the congregation of Bethel, Brother Fabian Willis, of Bethel Sabbath Day Church.
Lesson was on adultery and incubist. Talking about succubus sometime ago. But this is the other version of how the incubist goes after women to try to pervert them. We was talking about in the scriptures how a lot of the women of Zion desired a lot of the chief man of the heathens, like the Canaanites. They desired them. A lot of those lineages, they stem from the Nephilim bloodline, and a lot of the daughters of Zion liked what they seen when they was looking at them. So, all right. So we're going to continue at Ezekiel 16, 37 to 41. Again, this is why they're in power. Finishing up on that, we did read Ezekiel 23 to show how Yah gave them power because he was fed up with the whoredom that they was doing with them. So Yah gave them over to them. Ezekiel 16. 37 to 40. 37. And I will also give thee into their hand, and they shall throw down thine eminent place, and shall break down thy high places. They shall strip thee also of thy clothes, and they shall take thy fair jewels, and leave thee naked and bare. Because again, even though these beings were created, they weren't given, their fathers were locked up and, stripped of power, for the most part. And, that's why they, look like bones, because they didn't, because y'all was like, I ain't giving them this, y'all ain't getting jewels and the diamonds and all the royalty stuff that was for, y'all's people. But when, again, this is the first generation of Nephilim, the second generation, and then the more they breeded with humans, they became more humanized. But, you still got people to this day that, if you want to go to the details of it, they got Nephilim blood in them, because it's not normal. Yah didn't create man to be 7 foot tall or of that nature. Zion, that's not normal for Zion to be of that height and stature. But like I was saying, it's the first generation, second generation, and then the more they mixed with the women, the more normalized they became. That's chapter 16, Ezekiel chapter 16, 30. We're at 37. This right at 37. But I was pointing this out because Yah said, they're going to take thy fair jewels and all thy riches. Okay, and leave thee bare. So because they never had any of this stuff. So when they, again, this wasn't about a mutual love or anything. They just want what you got, and when it was time for them to be able to take what you got, what Zion had, they did it. You know, it's like a pimp and hoe relationship. You know what I'm saying? That's what it is. You know, the pimp really don't care about the whore. It's just, you know, I just want what you got.
He just want all her riches.
Correct. And that's the same thing. That's the same thing with when Zion, especially the daughters, that when they went a whoring with the other nations, this is what it was about. You know what I'm saying? I thought you loved me. No, I love what you got. You know what I'm saying? That, yeah. And this is what happened. And again, I started on. They shall strip thee of thy clothes, and shall take thy fair jewels, and leave thee naked and bare. They shall also bring up a company against thee, and they shall stone thee with stones, and thrust thee through with their swords. This 16 and 40 right now. Ezekiel chapter 16, verse 40. 41. They shall burn thine houses with fire, and execute judgments upon thee in the sight of many women. And I will cause thee to cease from playing the harlot. And thou also shalt give no hire any more. So I will make my fury towards thee to rest, and my jealousy shall depart from thee, and I will be quiet, and I will be no more angry. So this is, you know, when Zion went to go play the whore, especially with the Canaanites and the Chaldeans and all this stuff, and a lot of them had the Nephilim bloodline. This is the main point of it, and this is where the whole incubist type spirit, this demonic spirit that flows through the demonic seed line of Satan's children. Okay, now we're going to go to Job 9:24. Job 9:24. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covered the faces of the judges. Therefore, if not, where and who is he? Now, let's bring this point just to reinforce that, because of, you know, the initial matter in the garden, but also with these perpetual acts of whoredom, the more Zion became the harlot, the less power they got, and it went into the wicked's hands. And, you know, the wicked like show. You know, that's why the wicked don't mind perverting Yah's children, because the more they're perverted, the more Yah's going to get angry with them, and the more they're going to be enriched, and their kingdom is going to be blessed, so to speak. And we was talking about how she was alienated, her mind was alienated. That was in Ezekiel 23. When she went no whoring, her mind was alienated from Yah. So she was the, you know, so when she was with Yah, you know, she was the, you know, typical good girl. But when she started lusting after these
riches.
Huh?
Rich.
Not riches, the perversion and the whoredom of Egypt, you know, she started to become a whore, and it started to manifest in her, you know, displayment of her character. And I'll just, you know, this visual examples. This is you know, everybody, you know, in here old enough. Everybody in here old enough to remember the Cosby Show, you know, even though, and you know, this is a side note. This is a very perverted man. So his interactions with her, from a spiritual wise, I'm not saying he did anything from her, but just to be around this demonic spirit on a daily basis, this does influence innocence. You know what I'm saying? This guy was, you know, whether he was raping women or that many women or not, you know, I know he did some of them. And you can see, you know, just imagine when the daughters were in Egypt, they came like this, but the more they entertained and committed whoredom with the Egyptians, they became more perverted. I mean, look at this woman's a witch. She's a witch now. She went from little old Lydia, a sweet little girl, to a witch. I think she's a lesbian now too. And you know, this is another one. Anybody who Britney Spears, I know she used to be on the Disney Channel, you know, back in the day. And you know, that's a perverted channel too. You know, that's like a Satan's playground, because a lot of the children who are there, they go on to do a lot of whoredom later on in their life. So it's just like to get the youth to like somebody, and later on in their life, you know, they'll turn them out by their idol. And as you can see right here, this is just for visual understanding that when they were in Egypt initially, they were all sweet as Zion, but the more they entertained with the Egyptians, the more whoredom they became. And this is for visual effects. She's not Zion, but it's for visual effects. And you know, there's women in Zion who love snakes, who dress just like this, very perverted. And again, I try to keep it PG as possible. Well, PG-13 as possible. Yeah. Overtaking one. Now this is like we're oh, come on, man. Well, it's not gonna play. I'll just tell you. This is because I go to this stuff right here at this particular times, because we were talking about her mind was in Ezekiel 23 when it says her mind was alienated from Yah. You know, that means, you know, her Zion, mainly, especially women's minds, were not housing Yah's mind, and they were housing the demonic minds of their lovers, their perverse lovers. And this was just a video of a woman who was possessed, and she was on the side of the road, and she was gyrating on the ground, and the cops had to come, and you know, she fell off a car. She was, you know, demonic possession. And the more it's basically trying to get y'all to understand, the more that they entertain the whoredom of Egypt, the more perverse they got. And again, like I was saying yesterday, Zion wasn't meant to take on these spirits and burdens. So it's not going to be like, oh, the women of Egypt were committing whoredom and they seemed quote unquote normal. But when Zion committed these whoredoms, it affected them like it was just like a hit of crack. You know, it didn't operate the same in the same frame, because this spirit wasn't supposed to dwell in your spirit, and now it's even a more battle, and women are more emotional, and that's one thing that women, as being the weaker vessel, women need to take hold, because once she allowed those unclean spirits to be housed in her, it can just mental breakdown take place. You know, you have mental health issues. And before I go on from there, I'm going to read this in psychology, because a lot of people don't know that Satan is big on psychology.
With the mind.
Very big with the mind. And this is what it all is. And Satan likes to do trauma-based trauma. Just like Satan likes to molest children to have that to get that initial trauma, because even though it's trauma, it's perversion with the trauma. You know, it's like a Trojan horse. So later on in life, you know, unless that's treated and healed, you know, why I remember working in Arizona, this little girl, she used to masturbate. You know, this was an 8-year-old girl, but because trauma was happened to her, you know, and you know, in the in the behavioral field, you know, they're not really trying to place Yah in there to heal them. They're trying to do it from a clinical perspective. So it's more elongated in the process of treatment. So this girl has been afflicted with this trauma, and now it's manifesting in reality. You know what I'm saying? But again, it's going to be a detailed lesson, because it's a detailed subject because this is one of the big things that Satan uses to pervert people, men and women, sexual perversion. But I thought this was pretty good. I was reading. So I'm mainly going to use the scriptures, but I'm using some psychology matters too because this is Satan's playground. Satan loves psychology. With the etymology of whatever it is, Sigmund Freud first introduced the topic of childhood sexual abuse in a scientific context. He was convinced that, and Sigmund Freud, he was big into demonic stuff too. So a lot of the psychology stuff is based in Satanism as well. If y'all want to do y'all research on this later on. He was convinced that as children, many of his patients had been sexually abused by their parents, older siblings, or other relatives. Furthermore, he claimed, based on his new analytical method, that their hysterical and neurotic symptoms could be traced directly to repressed memories. This is a big thing. This is what Satan likes to do. Satan likes to damage a child or a person at any age, but especially children, with trauma, and it's repressed in you. And why is this girl, when she's 8 years old, 10 years old, having these urges to sexually abuse herself? Because she has suppressed trauma that hasn't been dealt with. Which we would know that these are demons that are in this person, that they just need to be vexed out. You know what I'm saying? But in the mainstream behavioral field, this is not. They're not taking it. They don't give you meds and whatever.
But it's not just girls, it's boys.
Yeah. But this lesson is more so focused on the abused women, because we already talked about the succubus and that was. Of that early abuse, this hypothesis marked the birth of psychoanalyst Freud. Later retreated from this theory, and whether he later on changed or not, this was the main point that I wanted to get here, because this is true, whether he changed or not. So go on. Physical, sexual, and psychological trauma in childhood may lead to psychiatric difficulties that show up in childhood, adolescence, and adulthood. And again, you see a lot of women that were sexually abused in their youth. When they hit adolescence or adulthood, 10, 20, 30, 40, sexual partners is nothing. Especially in this generation, and some of them, because this is a perverse society, they tell you don't be ashamed of being a whore, which was created in trauma. You boast about sleeping with 30, 40, 50 male partners, lesbianism and all that stuff, which it was really done in trauma. Satan is tricking you to enjoy your trauma. The victim's anger, shame, and despair can be directed inward to spawn symptoms such as depression, anxiety, suicidal additions, and post-traumatic stress, or directed outward as addressing. A lot of if you look at a lot of women in this society are very violent. If you really study this, and the FBI even has stated that most spousal abuses, women outnumber spousal abuse, domestic violence abuse cases than men. So it's a very a misnomer to say that men commit more domestic violence than women, when it's actually opposite.
But women can't say that men.
Correct.
They got the platform. Right?
Correct. And it's educated people who say that too. So, but it's just demons trying to manipulate stuff at that point to continue to hurt women to be emboldened in their pain. They're turning trauma into a blessing. Impulsiveness, delinquency, hyperactivity, and substance abuse. Childhood trauma may fuel rage of persistent psychiatric disorders. One of somatoform disorder, also known as psychosomatic disorder, in which patients experience physical complaints with no discernible medical cause. Another is panic disorder with agoraphobia. I don't know what that is. I don't know what that is. In which patients express the sudden, acute onset of terror and may narrow their rage to activities to avoid being outside, especially in public in case they have an attack. More complex, difficult to treat disorders strongly associated with childhood abuse or borderline personality disorder. And given from a spiritual perspective, we should understand that these are demons. Legion is in that house with them. That's what borderline from a spiritual perspective, a biblical perspective. That's what personality disorder. You know, they say, oh, I have two people in here. I hear thoughts. You hear demons talking to you, and you don't know how to deal with them, and they're going to give you medication to try to deal with that. And dissociative identity disorder, threesome disorder, I guess that was a typo. Someone with borderline personality disorder characteristically sees others in black and white terms, first putting them on a pedestal, then vilifying them after some perceived slight or betrayal. And again, you see that a lot in women. You know, say their husband or somebody who they're dealing with or in a relationship with, if one of their homegirls say something about them, and then the double-mindedness starts to kick in because she's not stable-minded. Because again, a lot of these relationships, she's already come into the relationship damaged, and she's adding more spiritual ties, which are creating more issues in her, and she's easily shaken. And we'll get to the scriptures to back it up later on. Such people have a history of intense but unstable relationships, feel empty or unsure of their identity, and especially Zion, as we also know that Zion was basically stripped of their identity. So you add the trauma of that with the identity crisis of not knowing who you are. That's a recipe for disaster, which you see now. Often try to escape through substance abuse and experience of self-destructive impulse and suicidal thoughts. And women, since the feminist movement has taken place, you do your research. We talked about this before. Women's suicide rates have gone up quite a bit since the feminist movement. Women are not happy with the order of things, but Satan keeps trying to put them in a position that they're not physically nor mentally made to be in. But he just said, strong black woman, you can do it, girl, etc., etc. They are plagued by anger, most often directed at themselves. In dissociative identity disorder, formerly called multi-personality disorder, the phenomenon behind, and this is that at least two seemingly separate people occupy the same body at different times, each with no knowledge of the other. Again, that's demon possession. But from a psychology perspective, they label it as that. This can be seen as more severe form of borderline personality disorder. In borderline personality disorder, there is one dramatically changeable personality with impact memory, on opposed to several distinct personalities, each with an incomplete memory. People with this dissociative identity disorder have two or more, on average, 8 to 15 personalities or personality fragments that control their behavior at different times. And again, like we was reading in Ezekiel 23, her mind was alienated from Yah, and it caused her to be, mentally unstable. Often there is passive, depressed primary identity who cannot remember personality disorder as fully as can the other more hostile, protective, controlling identity. And I'll leave that. Y'all get the point of that. I just wanted to share that from a psychology perspective, that Satan understands how the mind works, and a lot of people don't understand that when Satan got Adam and Eve trapped into the flesh, Satan already understood how to program the mind and how to enact trauma on the mind to get a certain behavior, desired behavior to happen. All right. Now, just a reminder. All right. Now we're gonna go to the conduct of the incubus. Psalms 58 and 3. Psalms 58 and 3. The wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they are born, speaking lies. Again, these are the wicked. Okay, these are the wicked sea lions, the wheat and tares, like I've talked several times about what I spoke on yesterday. The wheat and tares, the sea lion has been mingled in with the wheat, and the Bible does not speak highly of the wicked at all. This wicked sea lion. Now we're going to go to the Sirach, chapter 16, 1 through 7, in the Apocrypha. Chapter 16, 1 through 7. Ecclesiastes chapter 16, 1 to 7. Alright, Ecclesiastes chapter 16, 1 to 7. Desire not a multitude of unprofitable children, neither delight in ungodly sons. And this is something that, when Zion, especially the daughters, were in Egypt, they did not adhere to this. Desire not a multitude of unprofitable children. They liked the chief sons of Canaan and Chaldeans. They liked that, and it alienated their mind from Yah. Though thy multiply, rejoice not in them, except the fear of Yah be with thee. Trust not thou in their life, neither respect their multitude. For one that is just is better than 1,000, and better it is to die without children than to have them that are ungodly. And again, this goes back to that tare seed line. Yah is making it very clear he is not happy with the seed line. Again, in Matthew it says, at the end of the world, he's going to gather them all up and burn them. There's no repentance for them. So that's why you must test somebody's spirit to know what type of spirit they're coming in, because there's children of the devil out here, and if you don't want to test somebody's spirit, well, you have free will. For by one that hath understanding shall the city be replenished, but the kindred of the wicked shall speedily become desolate. Many such things have I seen with mine eyes, and mine ears have heard greater things than these. In the congregation of the ungodly shall a fire be kindled, and in the rebellious nations wrath is set forth. He was not pacified toward the old giants. You see that? It was no peace. It was no. Yah's making it clear. I don't like these beings. And these beings have transformed into these beings. Like I say, man, a lot of these people in the NBA, man, they got nothing but blood, man. Like, y'all it ain't gonna be based on scriptural, it ain't gonna be no man of stature that's gonna be in Zion. That's something that's in the Canaanite, the Egyptian bloodline, that is not in the bloodline of the people of Yah. And just like in slavery, you don't know who they were raping a lot of the daughters of Zion with.
I say that's the problem, because through rape and everything else that they did through slavery,
Mm-hmm.
you don't know where your bloodline come from.
You can only test. That's why the scriptures say test somebody's spirit. You know, that's why you gotta test the spirit. But my point, and you gotta remember that even before slavery, the daughters of Zion, they said they opened it up.
Yeah.
They opened it. So, but so though they were already here, but in slavery, you don't know who they were getting from Africa to come over here just to be a breeder. A lot of people think, oh, it was just a regular old Negro male who was breeding with all these women to make slaves. You don't know that, because I know people.
A lot of the slavers,
Mm-hmm.
they was doing the female stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And people from the African seed line, which the Egyptian seed line, they probably bringing them over here too. Again, Satan is all about manipulating everything. Satan is a geneticist. And a lot of people just think Satan is just, with a pitchfork and just putting evil on somebody. Satan's up in the lab cooking up genetic structure to create his seed line. Okay? Verse 7. He was not peacified towards the old giants who fell away in the strength of their foolishness. Because these people, these people have no knowledge. Again, they're retarded. I mean, the giants were retarded because, again, and retarded is because a mutation took place that wasn't supposed to take place. So it's a retardation. It's a degraded mutation. This was chapter 16, Sirach chapter 16. I was just finished reading 7. But the more they interbred with, the more they bred with the daughters of man, the more normal they became. And we was talking about yesterday about how the Nephilim bloodline had 6 fingers and toes. And I've met people before I was in the truth. They was like, oh yeah, one of my cousins, they got a little pinky, a little 6 finger. Back, and the Bible say this came from the giants. 6 fingers, that's what's associated with the giants. So you telling me somebody in your family got 6 fingers? We got some genetic, something's mixing your genetic bloodline.
When I was a kid, I knew some twins. They had 6 fingers and 6 toes, and they was twins.
Mm-hmm. And I'm deep in studying this stuff, so I would, knowing this, I would think something is up with it.
I have a question though.
Go ahead.
The song said, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. So God says, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. So how do I tell a child, do I tell them, God made you like that? Or do I say you got nothing but blood? And why does that matter today when blood of Jesus or Yeshua covers everything? It doesn't matter if I have nothing but blood. Why does that matter?
That is not scriptural. It is scripture in Psalms. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go into the lecture, but I had this in my spirit. If God says, I am fearfully and wonderfully made, and if God made all things, even if He made that, yes it is. I'm sorry to do it. Go ahead. I'll address it.
God made a He creation of all things. I know I'm deep in sin and all that. We all have sin, but I'm covered. Why does it matter today? I mean, this is good educational stuff. But for my salvation, it doesn't matter if I have Nephilim blood. It doesn't matter if I have from the 3 sons of Noah. We are come. But I mean, maybe you can explain after the election. I don't mean.
I'll address it right now.
But yeah, because that's what I'm saying. If somebody was here right now, this is too deep for them. My son was right here right now. He would be so confused. I have to go back and talk to him and explain to him about Nephilim, which.
What you're supposed to do, because the man was supposed to come learn and then
right,
go back.
But that right now, his salvation. This right now is nothing important to him right now than my son's salvation. Maybe that's second, but I go to him and say, if he has 6 fingers, 6 toes right now, he'd be so traumatized right now.
But that goes back to, in the Bible, the Most High said, I want you to reproduce with these people. I want you to reproduce with your own people. People, I understand, want to think that God loves everybody. That's not in the scriptures. Yah is making it very clear. I do not love everybody, but them I do love, I love. And we go to Matthew, just like the wheat and tares. Would you tell a tare they can go to the kingdom?
No, but they say in the scripture though, in Montana, and when we read about it is a wheat state, it says you cannot separate the tares from the wheat. You have to pull them up together, or you destroy the wheat. Like you said,
The scripture says, they said, should we burn them? They said, let them grow together.
Because you have to.
Okay, and then what? You say you will know them by their spirit. That's why you test the spirit. If you want, that's why I say, keep saying free will. If you want to just welcome everybody with every spirit that are children of the devil, that's an arrow that's going to destroy you.
Oh, I understand that part, but now we're talking about spirit, and that's physical. Spirit is different. So spirit, we all have a spirit or a soul. So when we talk about spirit, we talk about holy in the incubist or what y'all say, it's different. So once we come into the same knowledge of Jesus Christ because of the blood, we're all in the same spirit.
We're not all in the same spirit because
we are not until
you have this person. No matter how much he repents, he will never. No matter how much if Yahusha threw blood on him, he is not going into